Good evening, dear dreamer, and welcome to Whisper of the Night. Let's step softly into a world that moves quietly, where the night stretches wide and calm, and the sky holds more than just darkness. Imagine a gentle light drifting above the earth, watching without hurry, observing the slow rhythms of oceans, forests, and sleepy towns. There's a hush in the air, the kind that makes your breath feel lighter, your body sink deeper into comfort. We'll follow that light, floating alongside it, noticing the quiet stories of the world below, how rivers shimmer, how trees stretch, how little lives unfold under soft stars. There is no rush here, no need for answers, only the steady presence of something eternal and gentle. Let yourself be cradled by the stillness, letting your thoughts settle as we drift together into the world of the moon that watches in silence. And as you listen, may you feel a soft curiosity, a gentle wonder, and the quiet reassurance that comes from simply being present in the calm of the night. Let's take a few quiet moments together before the story unfolds. Begin by gently closing your eyes. If that feels comfortable, take a slow breath in through your nose and release it softly through your mouth. Again, breathe in unhurried and gentle and let it go, feeling your shoulders sink just a little deeper. Notice the weight of your body resting beneath you, the support of the bed, the chair, or the floor. You don't need to hold yourself up anymore. You're allowed to rest with each breath. Imagine the day drifting farther away. Loose thoughts float by like distant clouds, not needing attention, not needing answers. Feel your forehead soften, your jaw unclench, your hands grow warm and still. If your mind wanders, that's perfectly okay. Simply return to the sound of this voice. Steady, calm, and slow. Picture the night sky above you now, wide open and peaceful. Stars scattered gently across darkness. And somewhere above it all, a quiet moon waiting. Stay here for a few more breaths, letting your body grow. Heavier your thoughts, slower your awareness, drifting gently inward. When you're ready, the story will begin. The life of a moon that watched in silence, born from quiet fire in the beginning. There was a silence so deep it seemed to stretch on forever, as if the universe itself were holding its breath. Within that quiet, a soft swirl of dust and warmth began to gather, drifting slowly through the darkness. Nothing moved in a hurry here. The light from distant stars shimmered faintly, almost shyly, like tiny whispers scattered across the endless black. And among this vast hush, a presence began to take form, quiet and patient, without sound or urgency. This was the moon, not yet named, not yet thought of, simply beginning to be. It circled the young earth, a restless, molten world full of motion and energy. Great oceans of glowing liquid rock shifted endlessly across its surface, and storms raged in silent clouds of heat and fire. The moon did not speak, did not intervene. It only watched. Slowly, it began to notice the rhythms beneath it, the rise and fall of molten tides, the sweeping arcs of winds that spiraled across a newborn sky. Every orbit, every rotation felt like a gentle, measured breath. Time stretched long and quiet, giving the moon room to grow in awareness, though it did not yet have words for what it felt. It simply existed, observing, learning the soft pulse of a world that had only just begun. The universe around the moon was not empty, but it was hushed. Stars twinkled in scattered patterns, some distant and pale, others glimmering faintly with warmth, like gentle lanterns placed in the dark. Cosmic dust drifted lazily between them, catching tiny glimmers of light as it passed. There was a sense of softness here, as though all motion moved through thick, slow currents that took their time to reach their destinations. Even the vast pull of gravity felt like a gentle tug, urging the moon closer to the young Earth in slow, careful steps. Everything was deliberate, everything was quiet, nothing rushed, and in this stillness, the moon learned the meaning of patience as the moon continued its orbit. It began to notice patterns on the restless surface below. Oceans boiled and churned, lands shifted with a soft groan, and storms rolled across plains of molten rock. Yet the moon felt no urgency. It did not wish to change what it observed. Its curiosity was quiet, calm, almost meditative, like listening to a soft, slow heartbeat. The fiery rivers of molten earth, the rising steam, the glimmering, incandescent clouds, they were all part of a rhythm that it could not yet name, but could somehow understand. It was a rhythm of beginnings, of growth, of transformation, and, as it watched, it realized that its own movement, the gentle orbit, the slow rotation, was part of this quiet dance, as natural and necessary as the turning of the earth itself. Light began to reach the moon in new ways. Sunlight reflected off its surface, softening the edges of shadows and revealing subtle curves and craters that had formed as the dust and fire of its creation settled. The glow it now held was gentle, pale, reflective, a calm presence rather than a blazing fire. And with this light came the first sense of companionship. The moon understood, without knowing the word, that it was meant to be near the earth, to illuminate, to touch, without leaving a mark. Its presence was steady, unchanging, reliable, and so it moved through the darkness, always circling, always observing, carrying its soft glow across oceans and land, across storms and shifting clouds. A quiet guardian without thought or desire beyond its orbit. The earth began to cool, oceans forming from molten rivers, plains stabilizing, mountains rising from the slow shift of tectonic beginnings. Steam drifted upward, forming gentle clouds that floated over oceans and valleys, softening the glow of molten surfaces below. The moon observed all of this with a steady calm, noting the rise and fall of tides long before life would arrive to feel them. It was present, always, a silent companion to a world that had yet to know it. And in this stillness, there was a sense of wonder, as though the universe itself were opening a slow, soft eye to watch creation unfold. The first hints of light and shadow became more pronounced. The moon noticed how its soft glow touched the earth, brushing over mountains mountains and valleys, slipping across oceans and plains. It illuminated the restless waters without disturbing them. It traced the contours of young lands with gentle light, a slow, comforting hand that made no sound, left no footprint, changed nothing. It existed in perfect harmony with the world below, neither above nor below, simply alongside. A quiet presence in the vast expanse of space. And though the moon could not yet name what it felt, it understood the comfort of being constant, the reassurance of simply existing without interference. As the hours stretched into eons, the moon's watch continued. Stars twinkled silently around it, some fading, some newly born, scattered like dust across the vast black canvas. The earth shifted and cooled beneath its orbit, and the first hints of oceans shimmered softly in the weak light. The moon's soft reflection glimmered across the water, a gentle reminder of presence without action, companionship without interference. Even as storms rumbled quietly and molten rivers shifted slowly across young continents, the moon did not hurry. It was patient, it was calm, it was here, and in that gentle, unhurried stillness, the moon began to sense the possibility of life yet to come. Though it did not understand life, it noticed the slow, steady rhythms of water and land, the patterns that hinted at growth and change. It prepared to witness all that would unfold in the ages to come. For now, there was only quiet observation, the soft turning of the earth below, and the steady, calming presence of a moon learning the art of watching. It moved through space without rush, carrying its gentle glow, always near, always steady, always silent. And as the earth cooled beneath it, as oceans whispered and clouds drifted, the moon remained, ready to witness everything that would grow beneath its light. And now, as the earth settled into a slow, gentle rhythm, and the moon continued its quiet orbit, we can feel the world taking its first breath, soft, careful inhalation, a hint of the life and stories yet to come, as we drift gently into the next chapter of this long, luminous journey. When the earth began to breathe, the night had deepened over the young earth, and the moon drifted silently above, carrying its soft, steady light across oceans that shimmered like liquid glass. There was a quiet that stretched between the waves, a gentle rhythm in the rise and fall of water that seemed almost alive. The moon did not speak, did not interfere, but it watched with patience, feeling the gentle pulse of tides beneath its light. Each swell of water, each whisper of foam against the rocky shores was a slow, breathing movement, like the world itself, inhaling and exhaling softly, with the moon as a silent companion to its rhythm. Beneath the surface of these early seas, tiny movements stirred. Simple forms, delicate and curious, drifted with the current, unaware of the luminous presence that hung above them. Their motions were subtle, almost imperceptible to anything but the softest gaze. Yet the moon observed, taking note of patterns that formed and reformed in the gentle light. The waters rose and fell in response to its unseen pull, tides flowing like slow, measured breaths, touching every corner of the coastlines without leaving a mark. There was a harmony here, a soft, cradle-like balance that wrapped the world in quiet care. Over time, small islands and continents emerged from the cooling seas. Green shoots began to peek through soft, damp soil, stretching timidly toward the sky. Forests grew gradually, their leaves trembling faintly in the slow night wind. Shadows stretched longer with each passing hour, stretching across plains and valleys in soft, drifting patterns. The moon watched, as it always had, illuminating leaves and waters with a gentle glow. Noticing the smallest details, the shimmer of dew, the sway of a tender sapling, the glint of tiny creatures moving beneath the underbrush. Life had begun, and yet it was not hurried. Everything unfolded in patient rhythms, a quiet unfolding that matched the calm orbit of the moon above. The moon began to notice more than the movement of water or the growth of plants. It sensed connection, though it did not understand cause or effect. The pull of tides, the rise and fall of waves, the gentle sway of forests in the night wind, they were all part of a slow conversation, one without words, one that stretched across time and space. Even in its stillness, the moon felt the harmony of life responding, bending gently with the unseen forces that guided the earth. Its light brushed over oceans and forests without altering them, a companion that offered quiet reassurance rather than instruction. As centuries passed, more life appeared on the land. Tiny creatures emerged from the underbrush, exploring the forests with tentative steps. The moon's glow stretched across their paths, illuminating soft fur, glistening scales, and delicate wings in pale silver. Streams reflected faint light as water trickled over smooth stones, and shadows danced along the banks in time with the currents. Every living thing moved in its own rhythm, yet all were united beneath the steady, silent gaze of the moon. There was no need for intervention, no urgency, only the gentle guidance of quiet illumination, the soft companionship of a presence that simply watched, knowing that every moment was part of a larger unfolding. The oceans continued their steady, measured breaths. Waves lapped against newly formed shores, rising and falling as if inhaling and exhaling alongside the moon. Currents wove intricate patterns beneath the surface, carrying life across the deep, dark waters. The moon observed with calm patience, noting the delicate balance between water, land, and sky. Each cycle of rise and fall was a lullaby of rhythm, a soft song that whispered through the night, carrying the promise of growth and continuity. On the land, forests thickened and spread. Gentle winds rustled through trees, brushing leaves against one another in soft, whispering dances. Shadows lengthened as the moon traced their movements across valleys and hills, illuminating every corner without drawing attention. The quiet world was alive with subtle motion, a stream glinting in the soft light, a creature pausing to drink at the water's edge, a leaf fluttering slowly to the ground. All these small movements were held in a tender embrace of stillness, as though the moon's calm gaze encouraged every creature and plant to grow in its own gentle time. Night, the moon continued to observe, taking note of the patterns that formed across the world. It saw how oceans responded to its pull, how leaves swayed and shadows stretched, how tiny lives moved with care through forests and streams. It understood in the way only a silent observer could, that the world had its own rhythms, and that growth and life could flourish without interference. Its presence was steady, unwavering, a quiet guardian that illuminated the world while leaving it untouched. And with each passing age, the moon's glow became more familiar to the land, the oceans, and the creatures moving beneath its light, a gentle, constant companion in a world of soft wonder. Occasionally, tiny animals ventured out into the moonlit forests, stepping carefully on soft moss and grass. Their movements were quiet, almost reverent, as if they instinctively understood the peaceful watchfulness above. The moon's light highlighted the curve of a back, the flick of a tail, or the shimmer of scales in a pond. Streams and waterfalls reflected soft silver, creating ribbons of gentle light across the terrain. The moon watched all of it in perfect stillness, aware but not intrusive, witnessing without altering, understanding without speaking. There was a comfort in this, a sense of harmony that wrapped the world in quiet reassurance. And then, as the earth settled into a more measured rhythm, the first signs of even more complex life began to appear. Shadows moved differently across the land. Small, gentle creatures began to explore further from the water, discovering the patterns of trees, rocks, and valleys. The moon observed their tentative curiosity, its light flowing across their paths in a calm, unhurried shimmer. The world was breathing, living, and unfolding, and the moon remained steady in its orbit, a constant companion to every new step, every tiny movement, every quiet breath of life. The moon did not judge, did not intervene. It simply watched, learning what it meant to exist alongside a growing, breathing world. Its glow was neither harsh nor commanding. It was soft and nurturing, a gentle illumination that offered comfort without demand. Night after night, age after age, the moon traced its path across the sky, following the orbit it had carried since its birth, its presence a calm reassurance for all that lay below. The oceans continued their slow rise and fall, forests swayed in their silent rhythm, and tiny creatures moved in perfect harmony beneath the pale light. And in that gentle, measured stillness, there was a sense of preparation. Life had begun, and the moon knew its role: to remain, to illuminate, to watch without changing, to be a presence of comfort and calm for everything that would come next. The earth had cooled, oceans shimmered in quiet light, forests whispered in the night, and the first signs of life explored their world beneath the moon's glow. It was a world in gentle motion, guided by rhythm and stillness, a cradle of soft wonder and quiet growth. The moon continued its orbit, calm and patient, its light brushing every corner of the world without leaving a mark. The earth settled into its slow, measured breathing, and the moon remained, prepared to watch whatever was yet to come. The tides rose and fell, the forests swayed, and life moved gently under its care. There was no rush, there was no need for haste, only the soft, enduring presence of a companion that simply watched, steady and silent, ready to illuminate the ages yet to unfold as the night stretched on, and the first hints of a new dawn crept over the horizon. The moon drifted slowly across the sky, its soft light lingering over oceans and forests, over mountains and plains, over every tiny movement of life below. And as the earth breathed, calm and steady beneath it, There was a quiet promise of sense that something more would one day emerge beneath the moon's gaze, carried gently by the rhythm of its light, moving softly into the unfolding story of the world. The first eyes that looked back. The night stretched wide and quiet, and the moon drifted above as it had for countless ages, its gentle light brushing across the young earth. The oceans shimmered faintly, reflecting soft silver against the quiet curves of distant hills. Forests whispered in slow, swaying motions, the leaves rustling softly in the calm night air. And in this stillness, something new had begun. Tiny flickers of fire appeared on the plains, scattered and hesitant, like gentle sparks reaching upward to greet the sky. For the first time, the moon noticed not just movement, not just growth, but eyes that looked back. They were human eyes, full of quiet curiosity. At first, the figures were small and timid, moving slowly through the grasslands, carrying branches, gathering around faint fires that danced gently in the night. Their faces, dimly illuminated, reflected both wonder and reverence, the same awe that the moon had once felt for the restless Earth. These first humans did not yet understand the rhythms of the stars, but they sensed the presence of something larger than themselves. They lifted their gaze to the sky, letting their eyes linger on the moon's soft glow. And in those moments, the world felt still, balanced, and intimate. The moon drifted closer, not in motion, but in attention, its soft silver light washing over quiet plains, glinting on the leaves of early trees and the edges of small streams. Shadows stretched and curved with each flicker of firelight, and tiny animals skittered quietly, careful not to disturb the humans gathered near the flames. The moon noticed patterns in the human movement, the way they approached the fires, the way they gestured and whispered to one another. Though it could not speak, the moon felt the gentle pulse of their curiosity, their questions, and their beginnings of thought. Like faint ripples stretching across a calm pond, some humans tended small fires, feeding them slowly with gathered branches and dry grass. Others paused nearby, their heads tilted back, eyes fixed on the luminous circle that had hovered in the sky for so long. The moon did not judge, did not demand attention. It merely observed, patient and calm. Its light touched the humans softly, illuminating the textures of their surroundings, the smooth stones by the water's edge, the soft sway of grass in the gentle breeze, the warm amber glow of flickering firelight reflecting against their skin. Everything moved slowly here, in careful harmony, as if the world itself had learned to cradle this first shared wonder. Over time, the humans began to recognize the moon in ways that were more than simple sight. They named it, whispered stories, and crafted myths to explain the quiet presence above. The moon listened, though it never responded. It remained as it always hadn't, changing, constant and serene. Its calmness was not cold or distant, but soft and accepting, a gentle companion to the curiosity and wonder of the humans below. Every movement, every small ritual around the fires, Every glance upward into the sky was a story told in silence, and the moon absorbed each one with quiet understanding. The moon noticed how the humans counted nights by its phases, observing the slow waxing and waning of its glow. They marked time with soft ceremonies, tracing shadows on the ground, singing gentle songs that carried across the plains in measured rhythms. The moon felt the beginnings of connection in these patterns. It did not know their meaning, but it sensed the intimacy of these rituals, the way humans had begun to intertwine their lives with its light. Even from high above, the moon felt a warm, gentle bond with the world below, a bond of quiet companionship, observation without interference, presence without imposition. Occasionally, the humans moved beyond their fires, venturing into the forests or along the edges of streams, guided by curiosity and instinct. Their small steps brushed the soft earth and moss, rustling leaves in a gentle accompaniment to the whispers of wind through branches. The moon traced their paths with light, highlighting glimmers of water in the streams, the smooth bark of trees, and the shadows that stretched behind each figure. It was a quiet, intimate dance, a pattern unfolding slowly across the land. Every flicker of movement, every pause, every glance upward into the sky was witnessed with serene attention. Some nights, the humans would pause in their wanderings and stand completely still, their eyes fixed on the luminous orb above. They did not speak, but a quiet question lingered in the air, a gentle yearning to understand. The moon offered nothing but light, a calm presence to meet their gaze. It was a patient exchange, a soft dialogue without words, where observation itself became a form of connection. There was no urgency, no demand for understanding, only stillness, only quiet companionship, only the soft reassurance of a being that had watched the earth through ages and would continue to do so, unchanged and gentle. The moon observed the humans as they shared simple meals, spoke softly to one another, and rested by the warmth. The shadows of their small shelters stretched across the ground, dancing with the flicker of flames. Streams reflected the moonlight in soft trails, glinting like silver threads across the landscape. Leaves shimmered faintly in the breeze, and the air carried the subtle sense of water and soil, the cool calm of nighttime settling over everything. Even in its stillness, the moon felt the world's life, delicate and unfolding, full of quiet growth and gentle rhythms that mirrored its own measured orbit. As the humans became more settled, small villages began to form. Huts made of branches and leaves gathered in clusters across the plains. Firelight flickered from doorways, illuminating the soft, round shapes of bodies resting together, moving slowly and gently in the calm night. And always, the moon remained above, a silent guardian, watching over these early settlements with the same calm, unwavering presence it had carried for ages. It had become a familiar companion, a steady presence in the night, a reminder of constancy for a world that was learning to see and understand. The moon noticed the subtle growth of traditions. Humans traced patterns in the soil, counted nights, and whispered names and stories beneath its glow. The moon absorbed these small acts of reverence and wonder with the quiet patience of an eternal observer. Its light reflected off streams, rivers, and stones, brushing over the sleeping world without disturbing it. Every rustle of leaves, every gentle ripple of water, every soft step of a creature in the night became part of a delicate pattern, weaving together the world below and the silent gaze above into a shared rhythm of calm, measured existence. And as the night deepened and stretched toward dawn, the moon continued its patient orbit, tracing soft arcs across the sky. Fires burned low, shadows lengthened, and the humans rested, their heads lifted one last time to see the familiar, comforting glow above. For the first time, their eyes had met the moon, and in that silent meeting, a gentle connection was formed. The moon did not need to move, speak, or intervene. It only needed to exist, and in its presence, the world felt cradled, steady, and safe. Slowly, the humans drifted into sleep beneath the moon's light, and the forests and plains grew still once more. The soft glow of firelight dimmed, blending seamlessly with the pale silver of the moon above. Every leaf, every blade of grass, every small creature nestled in the underbrush settled into calm stillness, and the moon, unchanging and quiet, continued to drift, its gentle light reaching every corner of the sleeping earth, offering presence and comfort without demand. Luminous night, there was a sense of continuity, a reassurance that the moon would remain, always watching, always gentle, always near. It had witnessed the first eyes that looked upward in wonder, and in doing so had become a quiet companion to life's beginnings. And as the world turned slowly beneath its orbit, the moon prepared to witness everything yet to come: villages, settlements, stories, and rituals ready to illuminate and cradle the unfolding ages with its patient, serene light. And so, as the first humans rested and the night stretched onward, the moon's gaze softened, lingering over plains and forests, rivers and streams, fires and huts, a gentle, constant presence. It was ready to watch civilizations rise, to follow their quiet rhythms, and to offer the same calm, tender companionship to every life that would grow beneath its soft, silver glow, guiding us gently into the next chapter of Earth's story. Empires beneath a pale globe. The moon rose once more into a familiar place in the sky, its pale glow stretching gently across a world that was slowly learning to build, to organize, and to remember. Time, which had once moved like a quiet breath, now flowed in longer, wider currents. Years slipped into decades, decades into centuries, and still the moon remained, watching with the same calm attention it had always held. Below, the earth carried on, changing its face again and again beneath that steady light. Stone cities began to appear, rising carefully from the land as if shaped by patient hands and thoughtful dreams. Walls of pale rock caught the moonlight and held it, reflecting a soft, silver glow down narrow streets and open courtyards. At night, these cities felt almost gentle. Footsteps echoed lightly along smooth stone paths, and the air cooled after long days under the sun. Windows glimmered faintly as candles burned low, and rooftops rested quietly beneath the moon's watchful presence. The moon observed these places without attachment, noticing how they grew, how they aged, and how they eventually softened back into the land beyond the cities. Long roads stretched across plains and hills, winding their way through forests and valleys. Travelers moved along them by night, guided by the moon's steady glow. Their cloaks shifted softly with each step, and the sounds of their journeys were small and unhurried, the gentle creak of a cartwheel, the quiet snort of a resting animal, the low murmur of a shared story. The moon followed these travelers as it had followed the earliest humans, lighting their paths without asking where they were going or why. It was enough to be present, enough to offer light. Far from the roads, fields lay open and calm. Farmers rested after long days of tending the land, their tools set aside, their bodies settling into sleep. The moon watched over rows of crops that swayed lightly in the night breeze, their leaves catching silver highlights as if dusted with stars. Barns and small homes rested quietly nearby, their shapes softened by shadow. Inside, families gathered close, sharing the last warmth of the day before drifting into rest. The moon noticed the rhythm of their lives, the planting and harvesting, the waiting and hoping, and held it all without judgment. Across wide deserts, the moon's light fell differently. There, the land glowed faintly, sand dunes rolling like frozen waves beneath the night sky. The air was cool and still, and the silence felt deep and complete. Nomads traveled beneath the stars, their movements slow and deliberate, their fires small and steady. The moon reflected off distant stone and pale sand, creating a sense of endless space and quiet continuity. Even here, where life seemed sparse and fragile, the moon's presence felt constant and reassuring. Beyond the deserts, mountains rose in dark, patient shapes. Their peaks caught the moon's light first, glowing softly, while valleys below remained wrapped in shadow. Snow reflected pale brightness, and rocky paths shimmered faintly, guiding careful travelers through the high passes. The moon traced the curves of these towering forms, just as it traced the curves of oceans far below. It felt no difference between mountain and sea, between stone and water. All were part of the same turning world. Along the coasts, the moon watched sailing ships glide across dark waters. Their sails billowed gently, catching both wind and moonlight as they moved between distant lands. Waves whispered against wooden hulls, and reflections of silver light stretched and broke with each motion of the sea. Sailors stood quietly on deck, gazing upward during calm moments, feeling the same pull of wonder their ancestors had once felt beside early fires. The moon followed these ships patiently, never hurried, never lost, always present above the wide, breathing ocean in great halls and small homes alike. Kings and common folk slept beneath the same sky. Crowns rested beside beds, and simple blankets covered tired bodies. The moon shone equally on palace towers and humble doorways, offering no preference, no distinction. Children lay dreaming, their faces peaceful and relaxed, unaware of the long histories unfolding around them. The moon noticed their stillness, their small breaths rising and falling, and held those moments gently, as it held all moments. There were times when the earth grew restless. Armies moved across fields, and the sounds of conflict echoed briefly through the night. From its distant vantage, the moon observed these moments without alarm. Time softened their edges, turning sharp movements into quiet memories. When the noise faded, the land rested again. Broken walls became shelter for plants and animals. Old roads grew moss, and ruins settled into the earth, becoming places of quiet reflection rather than reminders of struggle. The moon watched as silence returned, as it always did. More often, the moon noticed the softer moments that filled the spaces between great events. Lovers walked slowly beneath trees, their voices low and warm, sharing thoughts meant only for each other. Friends lingered in doorways, reluctant to end the night. A single candle flickered beside a window before being gently blown out, leaving the room bathed in moonlight. These small acts, repeated countless times across generations, formed a quiet pattern that felt steady and comforting. As centuries passed, the world grew more connected and more complex. Cities expanded, roads multiplied, and lights began to glow more brightly through the night. Lanterns lined streets, windows stayed lit longer, and the darkness softened under the spread of human-made light. The moon noticed how its own glow sometimes faded against this brightness, its silver light blending into a sky no longer fully dark. Still, it did not retreat or change. It remained where it had always been, drifting calmly above a world that was learning to shine in new ways, in quieter places. Far from the busiest cities, the moon's light still held its familiar power. It spilled across empty fields, small lakes, and sleeping villages, creating the same gentle atmosphere it always had. Owls called softly from the trees, and water reflected the sky like glass. Here, the moon felt almost as it had in the earliest ages, undisturbed, clearly seen, and quietly welcomed. The moon understood nothing of progress or loss. It did not mourn what passed or celebrate what rose. It simply watched, aware that everything moved in cycles, that change flowed like tides it had long observed. Empires rose, spread, and softened back into history. Roads cracked and were rebuilt. Ships sailed and returned, or faded into memory. Through it all, the moon's presence remained steady, offering the same pale glow night after night. As the world grew busier and brighter, the moon continued its slow orbit, calm and unbothered. Artificial lights flickered and shone, but the moon did not compete. It existed alongside them, a quieter companion in a louder age. Its light still reached rooftops, rivers, and forests, still brushed across sleeping faces, still traced the shape of the earth as it turned. And so, as the modern age approached, the moon watched with the same patient gaze it had always held. It remained a silent witness to the passing of centuries, to the gentle unfolding of human life in all its forms. The night stretched on, filled with both old and new light, and the moon drifted onward, ready to continue watching whatever came next, its calm presence carrying the story forward into another turning of time. A world that forgot to look up. The night still arrived, just as it always had, but it arrived differently now. From far above, the moon watched as darkness settled over a world that no longer fully noticed it. Cities brightened instead of dimmed, and streets glowed with steady light that shimmered and hummed long into the hours meant for rest. From this quiet distance, the moon observed the way night had changed, not with disappointment, but with a soft understanding, like an old presence noticing a new habit forming below. Towers of glass and stone caught reflections from countless windows. Lights blinked and stayed on, glowing white and gold, washing the sky with a faint haze. The moon rose, as it always did, pale and calm, but its light blended into the brightness, softened until it became almost invisible. Almost, but not entirely. It was still there, holding its place in the sky, tracing its familiar path, watching patiently. Cars moved like slow rivers of light through the streets, their sounds distant and gentle from above. The moon noticed the rhythm of this movement, the steady flow that replaced the quieter footsteps of earlier ages. People hurried home, worked late, or wandered beneath glowing signs, their thoughts busy and full. Few looked up. Their eyes stayed forward, focused on screens, on roads, on the warm glow around them. The moon remained silent, accepting this without question. Inside tall buildings, windows revealed small moments of life unfolding. Someone sat alone at a desk, the room lit by a single lamp, their face calm but thoughtful. Papers rested quietly nearby, and a cup of cooling tea sent up faint wisps of steam. Outside that window, the moon hovered faintly in the sky, its presence barely noticeable through the city's glow, yet still watching with gentle attention. In another place, a child stood by a bedroom window, curtains pulled back just enough to see the night. The room was dim and peaceful, toys resting where they had been left, the soft rise and fall of sleep beginning to settle. The child's eyes drifted upward, not searching for anything in particular, just resting on the dark sky beyond the glass. For a moment, the moon's light slipped through the haze, touching the window softly. The child felt calm, though they might not have known why. The moon noticed, and held that moment gently beyond the cities. The land grew quieter. Roads stretched out beneath the stars, and fields rested under open skies. The moon's light returned here more clearly, spilling across grass and water without competition. In these places, the night still felt deep and wide. A traveler paused beside a quiet road, stretching tired muscles, breathing in cool air. Their eyes lifted, almost without thinking, and found the moon waiting there. It was a brief moment, but it carried a quiet sense of connection, like recognizing a familiar face after a long time apart. The moon watched over small towns where lights dimmed earlier and nights still held shadows. Houses settled into sleep, their windows darkening one by one. Crickets sang softly, and trees moved gently in the breeze. Here, the moon's glow painted rooftops silver and traced the edges of clouds drifting slowly overhead. These places reminded the moon of earlier times, when darkness and light shared the sky more evenly. Back in the cities, night continued to buzz with life. Cafes stayed open, music drifted from windows, and conversations lingered late. The moon floated above it all, unbothered by the noise, its presence steady and unchanged. It understood that forgetting was not the same as losing. The world had grown louder and brighter, but quiet moments still existed, woven between the busy ones, high above a sleeping neighborhood. The moon watched, as someone lay awake in bed, eyes open, thoughts drifting. The room was calm, filled with the soft glow of a clock and the quiet hum of distant traffic. The person turned slightly, gazing toward the ceiling, then toward the window. Through thin curtains, the moon's light slipped in faintly, barely noticeable, yet soothing. The person's breathing slowed, their thoughts softened, and sleep came gently at last. The moon held these moments carefully, as it always had. It watched dreams form and fade, worries ease, and rest settle in. It did not mind that its light was often overlooked. Its purpose had never been to demand attention. It was content to simply be there, offering quiet companionship to anyone who happened to look across the world. In places both bright and dark, the moon continued its slow journey. It passed over oceans that reflected city lights instead of stars, over forests that still whispered softly in the night, over rooftops, highways, and empty fields. It watched humanity move forward, carrying new rhythms and new distractions, while still holding the same need for rest and reassurance. Then, somewhere between the glow of a city and the quiet of the countryside, a single person paused. Perhaps they were stepping outside for a breath of air, or standing on a balcony, or walking home beneath a dimmer stretch of sky. They stopped just for a moment and looked up. The clouds shifted gently, and there it was, the moon, pale and calm, waiting as it always had. The person felt something soften inside them, a quiet recognition, though they might not have had words for it. The moon did not change or speak. It simply shone, steady and patient, holding the moment open. Time seemed to slow, just enough to let the feeling settle. And as that brief connection lingered, the night felt a little deeper, a little calmer. The moon continued its watch, carrying that quiet awareness forward, ready to drift into the final stillness of the story where reflection, rest, and gentle light would come together once more. The moon that still watches. The night settles gently now, like a soft blanket being drawn across the world. From high above, the moon continues its slow, familiar path, unchanged by centuries, untouched by hurry. There is no beginning here, and no ending, only a quiet present that stretches wide and calm. Below, the earth turns in its steady rhythm, carrying cities, forests, oceans, and countless sleeping lives through the dark. The moon does not think back on what it has seen, and it does not wonder about what will come. It simply is. It's pale. Light drifts across rooftops, where windows glow faintly, then dim as rest takes hold. It slides over winding rivers that murmur softly in their beds, over forests that breathe quietly in the cool air, over mountains that rest like patient giants beneath the stars. The moon moves without effort, without intention, offering the same gentle glow it always has. In one place, a city finally grows quiet. Traffic thins, lights turn off one by one, and the hum of the day fades into a distant whisper. The moon's light finds its way between buildings, touching empty streets and quiet parks. Benches rest beneath trees, and leaves shimmer faintly as a breeze passes through. Everything feels slower now, as if the world itself has taken a deep breath and let it out. Far from the city, the countryside sleeps more deeply. Fields stretch wide and open, their shapes softened by darkness. A barn stands still beneath the sky, its wooden walls holding the day's warmth. Somewhere nearby, an animal shifts in its sleep, then settles again. The moon watches over it all, its light resting lightly on grass and stone. Never pressing, never asking. Over the oceans, moonlight scatters across moving water, breaking into countless silver paths that rise and fall with each wave. The sea breathes in long, steady motions, just as it has for ages beyond counting. The moon reflects their calm and constant, watching ships drift quietly through the dark, their journeys slow and peaceful at this hour. The water holds the light for a moment, then lets it go, over and over again. Above forests, the moon's glow filters through branches, creating soft patterns on the ground below. Shadows stretch gently, then shift as clouds pass lazily across the sky. Night creatures move with care, their sounds low and rhythmic. An owl calls once, then rests. Insects hum softly, filling the air with a steady lullaby. The moon listens without listening, present without needing to respond. Inside homes, people sleep in many different ways. Some lie curled beneath blankets, breathing slow and even. Some stretch out, limbs relaxed, faces peaceful. Dreams come and go quietly, carrying fragments of memory and imagination. The moon watches over each of them equally, its light brushing curtains, walls, and quiet rooms. It does not choose who to shine on more brightly. It simply offers what it has. In one small room, someone lies awake for a moment longer. Perhaps they are thinking, or perhaps they are simply between breaths of sleep. Their eyes drift toward the window, where the night waits patiently. The moon hangs there, soft and steady. The person feels a calm they cannot quite explain, a sense of being held by something larger and quieter than their thoughts. Soon, their eyes close, and rest takes over. The moon continues on, unaffected by whether it is noticed or not. It has learned in its own quiet way that its purpose is not to guide or to change, not to warn or to answer questions. Its purpose is to remain, to watch, to be a constant presence in a world that is always moving. Nothing needs to happen now. Nothing needs to be fixed or finished. The earth turns, and that is enough. The moon follows, and that is enough. Time slows here, stretching gently, allowing every sound to soften and every movement to ease. Clouds drift across the sky, thin and unhurried, briefly veiling the moon's light before letting it shine through again. The light never disappears completely. It waits, patient, just beyond the cloud's edge, ready to return. The world below responds without effort, settling deeper into rest. The moon has watched beginnings and endings, first breaths and last lights, but tonight it holds none of those things in mind. Tonight is simply tonight, a quiet moment shared between sky and earth, between light and shadow. And now, as you rest, beneath this same sky, the moon's gentle glow reaches you to. It does not ask you to think or to remember. It does not ask you to follow a story or hold on to a thought. It only invites you to be here in this calm moment, breathing slowly, letting the day fade away. You are part of this long, quiet turning, part of the world the moon has always watched in silence. As your breathing deepens and your thoughts drift, the moon continues its steady path overhead, just as it will long after tonight. The sky settles, the night grows still, and everything rests, held softly in the moon's quiet light. Thank you for spending this quiet time with whispers of the night. May the moon's calm presence stay with you as you drift deeper into rest. If sleep hasn't come yet, that's perfectly all right. The night is still watching over you. Sleep peacefully and good night.